Okay, so topping PA7. This has now officially replaced my IMA A80. I really liked the A80 with the Sparco's op amps installed. Smooth, warm, and incredibly detailed sound, which has a wide soundstage as well, which works really well with these speakers. And I like that. But there were a few quirks that I didn't like with the A80 that made me look to alternative options. Now this came under my radar, the PA7, and on paper it looks perfect. Loads of power, more power than the A80 in fact, even though they both use a 48 volt power supply. The PCB, if you've ever opened one of these up, it actually says PA7/plus. So the PCB and components inside, exactly the same. Now you could obviously turn this into a PA7 Plus by buying the bigger power supply, but for these speakers, the sensitivity and the power rating for them for amps, PA7 is more than enough. There's more than enough power to drive them to obscene levels of volume. Now, in terms of the quirks, the stick-on feet, typical topping fashion, they are not very good at all. So I would recommend installing something better. Now, these are by a company in the UK selling on Amazon. I'll put a link to these in the description below. But these add an additional about 30 millimeters more than the stock feet of height, so you get a bit more breathing room for airflow and things, because if I get my thermal camera out, PA7 and PA7 Plus do run fairly warm. So I think the highest registered there is like 45 point something degrees centigrade. So it does run warm. And that's not because I've got it on top of the X9, which also runs warm. I had it on the desk here and it was the same as well. So PA7 just basically runs hot. It's a 48 volt power supply. It's not going to not run hot. So just keep that in mind to not put anything on top that will block the effective heat transfer from the chassis. Controller's fine, and there's feet on that as well. So that's all okay. And yeah, just doing it that way. And these feet from Amazon, they're much more, they've got much more friction, so it's not going to budge when you prod it or if it gets knocked or anything like that. Whereas a stock feet, too slippery, slides about. Not slides about, but if you tap it, it will move, which feet should not do. So I get these for everything now, every amp or DAC or whatever. If it's sitting on a desk, it's going to be on some feet. So yeah, that's my recommendation number one. Recommendation number two is the bypass mode at the back. So there's a little switch on the left side behind there. It toggles between fixed volume for the inputs or variable volume. So if you want to use the dial here to adjust the volume, you can do that when it's in the variable mode. Now I found, and it was only by accident because I was cleaning the speaker cabinet once and my head was near the left driver. It doesn't happen on the right driver, it's only on the left. And when my head was really near it, like this distance, I could hear a high frequency, low volume whining noise. It's like the kind of whining noise you hear when you have devices with RGB and you lower the brightness and you can hear the whining noise coming from those LEDs, or a display when you turn it onto medium brightness or low brightness. This is the X9, for example. This did have an issue with that. You can hear the display whining, or maybe it's just my ears that are quite sensitive to that. But those of us who can hear it, it becomes annoying over a short space of time because you never unhear it once you hear it for the first time. So I mentioned that to Luxine and they released the firmware which fixed it. So that was really cool, the fact that I wasn't going crazy and hearing things randomly. And it was only on the left channel, and it didn't matter if anything was plugged in on the input at the back. So it's purely PA7 related. Maybe it's something to do with the speakers I have because of their sensitivity or whatever. I don't know. I've only got one set of speakers at the moment, so I can't really, test that. But there was a noise. And it wasn't audible sat here at my desk, so I couldn't hear it there. It was only when my head was near the speaker where it became obvious. So to combat that, I did a lot of diagnostics and testing to see where that noise was coming from, unplugged things at the back and so on. So I isolated in the first instance that it was the PA7, not the X9 or not anything else, not the PC, USB noise coming through or whatever. Nope, it was the PA7. I then adjusted the volume in bypass mode, because I was in bypass mode at the time, to maximum, minimum, nothing there. So it wasn't the volume attenuation somehow interfering with the bypass mode, so that's fine. I then flicked to normal variable mode, so take it off bypass mode, and then slowly started to increase the volume with nothing playing. And I noticed that as I got to the maximum volume, around about 80% and beyond, that's when the noise went away. So for some reason, when it's in bypass mode, some attenuation or something inside the PA7 is causing a faint whine to come from the left channel of the speaker and not the right channel. And it doesn't matter what the volume dial is set to in bypass mode, but take it off bypass mode and put it on maximum volume and the noise goes away. Now, I don't know about other amps or other power amps, but on the PA7, when the volume is at max manually, it is exactly the same loudness and sound quality, everything like that, exactly the same as bypass mode. So effectively, you don't really need that switch in the back. You can just whack that up to maximum, and there you go. You have your fixed line level volume input for whatever inputs you've got, RCA or XLR. So yeah, that's an observation to make. And my recommendation is to just take it off bypass mode, don't worry about that, and use maximum volume on here. The quirk is that the dial, the marker on the dial, is very faint to see. It's not an LED or anything, it is just a painted marker. So you have to look, just in case you nudge it one day and the volume goes lower, like there, 3 o'clock. You won't know until you look closely at it and then take it back to max. So that's an annoyance, but hang on. This should have been an LED, a faint LED that you can optionally turn off or on with a switch at the back or whatever. Other quirks about it, the front panel here, this panel thing here, it's not glass, it's acrylic or perspex or whatever it is. It is a scratch magnet as well, so that I've already got some micro hairline scratches on it already from where I've been sort of installing it and faffing around. But if you touch it with your nail, that's a scratch that's going to show up on there. So similar to OLED or QD OLED front panel films, if you touch it with your nail, that's it, that's toast. That's a scratch, that's never going to go away. So do not touch these things with your nails, or try not to. Cleaning it, wipe it with a microfiber soft cloth. That's it really. Other than that, it's a really good unit. The sound is bordering on warm and smooth. I know some people say power amps like this are transparent and neutral, but I've heard transparent amps before, and this is warm and smooth through these speakers. And that's really good, because these speakers, magnesium horn tweeter, it can be quite bright on some music, but those same tracks, especially 1980s pop music tracks, they're really well controlled through this. Detail's incredible. And for example, Madonna's Lucky Star, crank the volume all the way up on this, you know, put it all the way up to 30 dB, and it's really enjoyable. There's no harshness or fatiguing or anything like that, no matter how long you listen to them. So that's my recommendation there with this sort of amp, where it will just bring out the best of your highly resolving speakers and deliver all the characteristics that make that speaker great. I know these are just toggle switches, but I find stuff like this really satisfying to use. So it's just going from XLR to RCA, and it's just nice to just sort of use these. It just feels and sounds great. And that's the power switch. We're in normal on mode, and then we're in trigger mode. Now I have got the 12-watt trigger cable connected from the X9 to that. So if I turn off the X9, I should see that go off as well. And it wakes back up the same way once the X9 wakes up. There we go. And you can hear the relays click and stuff like that. So this is the kind of thing I like. You know, it's an interactive process and it's a bit more immersive. You hear relays click. The other quirk that I noticed was when the PA7 powers down. So if I do that now, I don't know if it's going to pick up on the microphone, but you can hear it's either a capacitor or a transistor inside. You can hear it go meow. So it's like winding down or relieving its internal pressure or energy that it's got conserved whilst it's powered on. So that's quite cool. I don't find that annoying. I find that kind of characterful, really. It gives it a bit of charm, something personal about it. It's not just a clinical and sterile, oh, switch it on and leave it on and switch it off and it just goes off kind of thing. It's got something about it that makes it a bit more personable. I know it's an appliance, shouldn't feel personable, but hey, it is what it is, right? But yeah, this setup at the moment, this passive setup that I've got, power amp with the PA7 and the speakers, that's not going anywhere. For me, that's going to stay long term, unless something cheaper, because this is like a little over £300 I paid for it. But unless something cheaper comes out that sounds better or does something better, or it doesn't generate as much heat, for example, then I have no reason to change this now. It does everything I need. 12-watt trigger works. It didn't work, triggering didn't work with the A80 through the X9, but it does through here. So that's good. It is just set and forget. As long as I don't nudge this dial, just check it from time to time, I'm good. Enough power, the sound is incredible, and yeah, tonally, everything just gels. And it helps that the silver shades match between the units. So it kind of looks like it's an okay stack. Okay, they're different sizes, but it doesn't look out of place, I don't think. So the black and silver combo does work. I was kind of in two minds because I did want to get the black version, but they didn't have that in stock. But I'm glad I got the silver now, so that's fine. But yeah, that was all I wanted to say about the topping PA7. Don't fret and get the PA7 Plus, because you can always get the bigger power supply down the line if you need to. K13R2R is still to come. So once that arrives, I will replace the X9 for a short term and do some back and forth testing between it. I'm expecting some good things from the K13R2R just because the K11R2R I owned was so good. So as long as it has the connectivity at the back, then we should be in business, and I'll see you then.